Hey guys, this is 012 Boku coming at you with another movie review. And this time I'm not going to bring you a trailer review, as I'm going to do every other time or so. But I'm going to give you this Casino Royale. Why am I starting with Casino Royale in the 000 series? Or 007 series, I should say. The reason is because, to put it frankly, Daniel Craig is good. I like Daniel Craig. I think he's been a good Bond. I don't like how his written portrayal by the writers and the producers. Now, I'll say it this way. I know people who have read the books know that Bond is quite thuggish in the books, and he does have that attitude, but I think they play it way too much in the later films. Not so much in Casino Royale here, but I really think they played a lot in Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and probably in Spectre. I'm not sure. I've not seen Spectre yet, but I know it really was apparent in Quantum of Solace as well, as it was in Skyfall, and it was in here too, but it wasn't as bad in Casino Royale, so I've got to give them props for Casino Royale. And I know there was a lot of flack with Daniel Craig going through, and I mean, everybody's like, he's a blonde Bond. I didn't care. Blonde haired Bond. Didn't matter to me none. I just didn't enjoy the complete portrayal they gave Daniel Craig here. I think it could have been a lot better. You didn't have to have him be completely suave, but for people who said, oh yeah, the whole thuggish vengeance side of Bond is not what we haven't seen before. I said this in a recent review on snappow.com. If you guys don't think Bond has ever gone for vengeance, have you guys ever seen Diamonds Are Forever? Have you ever seen License to Kill? And I think in a couple other movies he sort of had a vengeance vendetta. Should see some of the earlier films, guys, if you think that's the case, because you need a Bond rebrush up on, and this is not the first time we've seen Bond have a vendetta against somebody. In fact, the one I could think of worse, License to Kill, and if you want to go farther, GoldenEye. Because when he found out Alec Trevelyan was the traitor, and when he kills him in the end of the movie, holy crap. You don't think that's vendetta driven? Holy crap. But I'll get into that, because I plan to do GoldenEye, so I'm not going to get into that quite yet. But, with Casino Royale, it was the first film in the reboot of Bond, which I admit they did an interesting job start with this movie. Was I for the reboot? No, not really. I think they could have continued it after Die Another Day. I know Die Another Day was accepted well by fans, and then for other fans it wasn't well accepted, and for a new generation of getting Bond goers, people were wondering what it was. And granted, they didn't do a lot of the stunts themselves a bit in that movie. Some of it was CGI influenced, which, boy, you look at the later films, Quantum of Solace, Skyfall, and even from what I could see in the scenes of Spectre, CGI is creeping up more and more in the Bond universe, and something we're just going to have to accept. Even though it's hard, because we know we're used to them doing everything by their own hand and stuff like that. But of course, with this movie, you had a cocktail of everything in Casino Royale. You had great character, a great way for Bond to start out, a great way for him to accept his 007 status, and also have his relationships, see how this thuggish side also carried on his suave side, his great mannerisms, his comedic side, everything else. Which, his comedic side was good in here, but it wasn't as the great dry wit that we're used to. But it still worked. And overall, I mean, what can you say? It was what Eon Productions could do at the time, and I still think they did a amazing job. And the reason that I think Casino Royale is great is thus. One, Daniel Craig as Bond. he was good. He carried, I think, everything into the film as well as he could have. The suaveness, the look, being able to perform the stunts, the action, the duties, knowing how to carry himself as an agent, I think he did. Going off on his own and doing things against M's orders was still very much into character. The whole recreating the Ursula Andress scene through the water, though, unneeded. That was definitely a fan service bit, but could see why they did that. See what else? What else? Well, no, there's various things, but like I said, the biggest thing to me that hurts Daniel Craig is the thugging opportunities. Like he just comes off. I believe it's the writing. It's that he's made way too much as a thug. Once again, I know it's probably a part of the book universe, but I don't know, guys. It just didn't transition well for me. It works in parts, but then at the same time, it's like he's also not just a thug. He's very brutal. And James Bond, he goes on vengeance things. He can be brutal, but he's not supposed to carry the air that he's a brutal person all the time. And I think Daniel Craig just carries that way too much. It's not his fault, but I just think for the character portrayal, yeah, a little too much. And let's see as we continue on with this as well. We have Ava Green, who also plays Vesper Lynd in this movie. Now, as the movie continues on, we have Bond trying to hunt down a terrorist organization run by a banker who funds the terrorists named the Chief. And while he's looking for the Chief, he's trying to stop him, go through many hurdles, try to stop, say, a Miami terrorist attack at an airport that was going to be funded by the Chief. He tries to just get in his way, and what happens is at some point is the Chief plans to hold a poker card game tournament to have a bunch of hard card sharks, players, and rich people just come into this game and play to their heart's content, and the Chief hopes to beat them all to basically supplement his losses for the failed terrorist attack in Miami and to pay back his terrorist brokers who he promised the money to fund their operations. And when Bond gets sent to the Casino Royale, which I forget where it's at, it eludes me, but when he gets sent to the Casino Royale, he's met upon the train by Ava Green's character, Vesper Lynd, who is the MI6 British banker. And right off, Ava Green is proving to be a match, Vesper Lynd, for Bond. She has the same sort of, dry wit. There seems to be this unseen attraction to the two. They like each other more as the film goes on. There's a darkness hidden within both characters for Vesper Lynd and, James Bond. And, it's played well, and you got to give Ava Green props. She did well in the role. She had a natural attractiveness, a beauty, a lot of good things you could get over with that. And then continuing on, you have, Mads Mikkelsen as the Chief, the terrorist banker. And the Chief, you get right away that this guy who funds terrorists, he has money and he has a quintessential amount of power, because with him, no terrorist is going to get funded without the Chief's money. So the Chief knows he has people in his back pocket, and he can sort of keep the terrorists at bay, only for a short while, because from when you see the Chief, he's a tough guy, he's calculating, he can be brutal, but he honestly does not want to get his hands dirty at times, and he really does come off as this sort of unseen coward. I don't really think he is, but at the same time, I don't think he can handle tough situations. And he just plays that through the movie. And as we know, when he has his failed terrorist attack in Paris, or not Paris, but in Miami, which Bond thwarts,
by trying to blow up one of the new airliners that were coming out of there. He decides to hold a card tournament to win back his losses. Along the way, he tortures one of his associates' fiancés or girlfriends because they believed she talked. She was the only other candidate, and they basically tortured her, threw her into the sea, tied her up in a cot, and I guess she just died and, was tortured there. And, they did terrible things to her. So the sheep is definitely bad news. So when we go to the Casino Royale, and the sheep is having this, card game, when you get to Bond and the sheep playing the cards, I mean, there's a whole bunch of people playing the game at the table, but the main focus is James Bond and the sheep throughout the whole thing because they're like the two biggest card players of the game. And I have to say, Mads Mikkelsen really knows how to do this well. Like, he knows how to sort of play nervousness, play a bluff, as does Daniel Craig as Bond. I mean, he does a phenomenal job of this scene as well. And with the Chiefs' counterpoint, with Mads Mikkelsen's counterpoint, it is such a well thought out, drawn out scene. It actually continues through on, so spoiler alert here. Uh, Lashif at some point during the game tries to poison Bond. It doesn't work. Bond comes back with help from Vesper Lynn when they try to resuscitate his heart to drive out the poison, which works. It gets to the point where Bond actually beats Lashif, calls his bluff, wins the game, and what happens is Vesper Lind gets kidnapped by Lashif. Bond's on the way to rescue her. Bond actually gets tricked by having Vesper Lind be in the middle of the road. His car does multiple flips. He crashes. He's captured along with Vesper Lind. And there's a part where Lashif is being terrible, torturing Bond, actually throws a wet, knotted rope into his genitals, which is a hilarious scene. He's trying to do great things and, trying to get this information from Bond and be intimidating, but Bond's like, oh, you keep scratching me down there. The whole world's going to know you're scratching my balls. I'm going to make sure. And Bond, in his classic way, is not telling Lashif anything. Like, he doesn't want to give up any information on his winnings or how to get the money. And I almost want to believe, I mean, it looked like, I don't know if Bond was going to cave, and I don't think he was, but for a moment, it looked like he did when the chief was like, if you tell me now, I'll end your life quickly, and I will let the girl go and live. She can live. And it looks like he almost does, but Bond sticks to his guns, does not cave, and when the chief is about to take out Bond, we have, I believe it's Mr. White, the man who was his associate in the banking business. Mr. White comes in and caps the chief in the head, killing him with a close range shot. And, you got to say that Mads Mikkelsen did a wonderful job doing that. Because with all that, it's like you get the sense of a tough guy, but overall, the chief is a huge coward. Let's see, you got, oh yes, a character who I didn't mind being in this movie. It was weird seeing him, and once again, it's not because he's black. It's not because he's black. It's just that I almost think there was no reason for him to be there, almost in the movie. I mean, it made sense in a way, but at the same time, it didn't. I mean, because there's one reason why he's here, and then that's it. And you find out that later there is this, black African American male sitting at the table with Bond, like almost adjacent from him, playing poker with him and Lashif and the rest. And, when the poker game gets heated and the chief wins the first half of the winnings, the chief is like, to Bond, you thought I was bluffing, I tricked you, I'm going to take these winnings, they're mine now. And when, the chief takes the winnings and goes on his merry way, Bond runs into another associate in the film called Mathis.
and he tells Mathis to, get, Vesperland out. And he actually picks up a knife from a table and is actually going to the sheath at it. But then another guy says, heck of a party, grabs his arm, and it turns out to be Felix Leiter. And it's that, black African American male, Jeffrey Wright's character. And I'm like, okay, that's cool. A little weird he's being introduced now for that type of guy, but, it's cool, I get it. And I mean, here comes the one part that why Felix Leiter is there. He'll continue to fund Bond for the poker game because the CIA has a bit more money, and Bond, Vesperlin, and all their money ran out. But Felix Leiter has more, and Felix Leiter is saying, look, if you keep playing and win, you get the money, but the CIA want the sheath. And that's pretty much it. And Bond and Leiter have a few more interactions, and I don't know. For this film, it was almost pointless. I mean, you could have had another character come out of nowhere and do this, and probably still made the same amount of sense. But with Felix Leiter being there, it's like it was cool to see him, and Jeffrey Wright, did an all right job. I mean, it wasn't enough time to pretty much envelop Felix Leiter like we've always had in the previous films, but I guess it is what it is. But once again, just something I couldn't fully get into. But Jeffrey Wright does what he does for being there. And another character who reprises her role is one of the originals, which started in this film with director Martin Campbell all the way from 1995. We still have Judi Dench playing M. Which when you had I forget it, when you had Bernard Lee pass away, and then you had I think it was Rob Brown or whoever else it could be. I forget the second guy who played M, but I know I'll figure that out at some point soon. But yeah, Judi Dench, a female, take over in Goldeneye. When Martin Campbell, the director of this film, directed Goldeneye in '95, it was Judi Dench he had. And, being the first female M was a, big honor for Judi Dench. And to see that she carried over this role, like, 2006, so 11 years later, was amazing. The fact that she's still been in all these films, was awesome. It was great to see. And, Judi Dench plays a great job. She still has that commanding air where she is a woman, but she has this very strong physical presence, that she's in control of MI6. She really cares about Bond and her agents. She's a person who doesn't take any slacking. She expects results. She will make sure that her and her agents do whatever they can to get those results. And, Judi Dench never loses a step as M. She's right there in the thick, just wanting everything done. She's right there to almost put Bond in her place, even though when Bond's also putting her in her place at the same time. And it's amazing. What can you say? So Judi Dench, great job on the continuation of M. Wish you could have done it more since Ralph Fiennes taking your spot, but hey, that's alright. That's how things go. And let's see, I believe that is it for the main cast. Yep. And basically a few other things to mention about this film. Great action, great stunts. The beginning scene part with the parkour guy when he's chasing, I forget the dude's name, but when he's chasing that guy down in Madagascar, and they're going through construction working sites, the Madagascar embassy, and all these different places was great. The terrorist scene action part in Miami was just an awesome go through from start to finish. The card games were actually very enjoyable. Great high stakes for drama. Great way to make things big and usual. The ending action scene was great, even with the twist with the spoilers again. Vesperlin being a villain in a way where she was helping other terrorists from the Chiefs' same organization get the money because they were holding, I believe, Ava Green's boyfriend. So she wasn't a villain per se, but she was being forced to work with these guys. And overall, it was great. And I gotta say, even at the end where Bond meets up with Mr. White, shoots him in the leg, and he says, "I got your attention now. My name's Bond, James Bond." That was a great way to end it. So the action is superb in this movie, and see, so I was like mentioning the scores to you guys. Oh yes, David Arnold still continues as the main composer for James Bond. Does great work in this movie. Great soundtrack, very Bondish, very good stuff. Great to see. Uh, Another thing and final that I would love to mention is the opening credits sequence and music. It was a great opening credits. Bond and the others being represented by cards. Them shooting each other with hearts and jacks and clubs, and making it over dramatic as all the card stuff is happening was really cool. And "You Know My Name" by Chris Cornell was a very interesting theme. It fits the movie, it fit the decor, had an awesome beat, everything went together with it. Superb. It's much more than I could say for the later films. Oh boy, you know what I'm talking about. Skyfall and Quantum of Solace, you know what I'm talking about. Yeah. But overall, great film, great collaboration with Martin Campbell, great start out for Daniel Craig. The best one of the original brand, in my opinion, of the new brand, in my opinion, because Quantum of Solace and Skyfall were entertaining, but they did not do it for me. And the fact that they kept typing up this was going to be the best Bond, nope, that's still GoldenEye to me, folks. So, I still have to see Spectre, but GoldenEye is still the top one for me of all the films. So yeah, if I had to rate Casino Royale, I believe I gave this an 8 out of 10. Great action, pretty good story, great drama. Just don't like the thuggery and the brutishness of it. And also, personally, still don't know why they had to do the reboot. I understand the reason, but I don't completely get it. But, once again, your guys' opinions also matter. What did you think of Casino Royale? Do you think, am I right about this? Do you think Daniel Craig is too brutish? Do you think they're writing him too brutish and thuggish? Do you think this is perfect for you? Or, do you like any of these films? Are you a Bond fan? Just mention all these in the comments down below if you want. So, I do enjoy it. Well, that was Casino Royale. This is 012 Boku signing off, and I will see you guys again with another review, hopefully shortly.